Alright guys, this is going to be my out-of-box review for the Figure-rise Standard Diver Nami. So this is the first of Bandai's Gundam character, like Gundam girl characters to be released in the Figure-rise line, and that's because this is, I guess, not an actual robot kit, but an actual, just like an online avatar of the girl, so that's why it's released in the Figure-rise Standard line. Now what does it actually mean for the kit? Is the kit better or worse or any different, and just because of the fact that it's released under a different line rather than the HG line? It's a little bit different. It certainly feels much more solid than the Fumina kits that I've built in the past, as well as the Chinagai kit. But ultimately, I think it's generally basically the same, but I think it is slightly improved. So I'm not going to say that like it's just a million times better, because it's just not. It's just technically not really that much different about it. But it definitely has been improved a little bit, to the point where it's a lot more fun to work with this kit, in my experience, than with the Fumina kits that I've reviewed in the past. So if you want to know, basically, is this Bandai's best mecha girl kit so far? Most definitely the answer is yes. Now, is it still up to the standard of Kotobukiya's Frame Arms girls and Megami device kits? I would still say definitely not. Now, of course, for the price tag, it definitely has that advantage. But in this review, we'll take a look at everything, and you can be the judge for yourself which one you want to get. Let's get cracking. So what all do we have included with this kit? We have an included base, which is in clear red, except for this extension piece, which is in the same red that's on the kit. Unfortunately, it's too bad they couldn't mold that in the same clear red, so that's a little bit distracting, but fortunately that will be, of course, just behind the kit for the most part. We've got three different hand options for the kit. Some closed fists, which are pretty nice, but when you see them on the inside, they do have a hollow gap there in the center, which is a little bit disappointing. You do also have options for open hands, which are pretty nice, and holding hands, which are just also fine. So we have each of those for the left and right side. We've got some extra armor bits. So here on the leg, this is just kind of like the simple form of them, but you can also add these parts on here. But it's the same 3mm, adapter hard point there, so you can plug pretty much anything onto there that uses that style of plug. But that just plugs onto there like that, with this black sticker on the side of that part, and then on this side like this to buff out the legs a little bit and add some knee armor on there as well. And then up here at the shoulders as well, you have these extra shoulder bits will plug onto the red part. These are also just in black, but they have the yellow stickers on the side of them. So there you go, that bulks out the shoulders a bit. And I think with how bulky the forearms are, to have like a small bit at the shoulders looked a little bit strange. So now that the shoulders are bulked out a bit, it just kind of flows better with the arms as well. Probably one of the best things about this now being in the Figure-rise Standard line is that we finally have multiple options for the face. All the previous releases have not had different options for the face, so that is a really good thing. Just the one here is just like a smiling face, and then we also have like a kind of shouting face, but we also have a different set of hair as well. So you have two different options for the hair, this teal color or just regular brown color. And you could also mix and match them if you wanted to have like the back of the hair in teal and like half of the front in brown and half in teal or something like that. You can mix and match those parts, which could be pretty cool as well. And then we have a third face option part, which is a smiling and winking face as well. Now the unfortunate thing about these faces is that these are just stickers for the eyes. They don't use multi-injection for the eyes like they did with, like, for example, the Figure-rise Labo line. So there is a separate white piece that goes in there, and the white part for the eyes is molded with details on there, like all these details, so if you want to paint them, they'll be easy enough to paint. The stickers look passable. The one for the winking eye looks a bit silly because you can very clearly see that it's a sticker. So that's definitely going to be one advantage that the Frame Arms line definitely and the Megami device line have over, because those are pre-printed and they come with water slides for those if you do want to repaint them. These stickers look okay, but they're just not as nice. Moving on here on the backpack, which is the L compressor backpack. So this is styled as a paint compressor, basically, I guess. All the weapons and accessories are named after actual Gunpla building supplies, interestingly. And then here we have a Gundam Marker. This would be the G Marker Saber. There's no actual saber effect part for that. That's just how it is. It can just hold that in the hand as a marker saber. Then we've got the D separator shield, which is just a brown piece of plastic with this big yellow sticker stuck over the front of that. This is modeled after Bandai's part separator tool, and there's a little bit of detail there on the back as well, which is pretty nice. So here on the side of the forearm, this little bit there folds down, and you can plug this onto there for the shield, but this also folds out away from the arm like that if you wanted to have this actually in front of the hand. you can do something like that anyway, holding the shield out to the front, which is pretty cool. Then we're getting into the really fun stuff. This is the Nipper Javelin. So this is just a javelin with a set of nippers at the end and a set of actual working nippers. So obviously you're not going to be able to cut anything with these, but just the fact that those actually open and close is pretty cool. And I just like this kind of simplicity of this javelin weapon for this, especially for this type of kit. I think it's very fitting and it works pretty well. And finally, the P spray gun, modeled after an airbrush, which is very cool. It even has like a little cup on there on the top. So of course it's supposed to be like a mix of the beam spray gun used by the gym and an airbrush. So this has a little wire coming out the side of that, or at the bottom of that I should say, and that will just feed around here to the backpack and plug up into there. So now that's connected to the compressor backpack, and there you go, an airbrush weapon. That's pretty cool. That's a lot of fun. Alright, so let's take a look at some of the articulation of this kit. So first off, this little bit of hair at the top. I know there's a certain Japanese word for this, but I don't know. I'm not near otaku enough to know that. But anyway, that does move around. It's just on a ball joint that moves like that. The ears, though, do not move. I was actually expecting those to be able to turn or something, but they don't. Those are just stuck, fixed in that position. The head can look up to about there, which is not that much just because of the hair in the back, but it can look down more than enough all the way down to there, and then of course side to side and all around is just on a ball joint there at the top, so that works well enough. Back here around in the backpack, obviously not going to be much in the way of articulation. The thruster bells do move a little bit, but nothing really too much. The cool thing is if we remove this is using the same backpack adapter or backpack connection that a lot of build fighters and build divers kits use. So like for example, this is just the simple backpack from the Leo NPD kit. For an example, will just fit onto there, so you can very easily swap the backpack with one of the kits in that line. Now before moving on to the rest of the body, it'll just point out some of the stickers there. Yellow line across the part on the top of the head. These big yellow stickers which I mentioned on the shoulders there. Red stickers for a little bit there at the collar, and then going down the center and then around the underwear section area, where anyway, all the little red lining bits, that's all stickers. And then these black lining parts around the thighs and around the upper arm, those black lines are also stickers. And again, as I mentioned, the black sticker on the side of the leg armor there. So it's not crazy stickers all over the place, but there is a fair amount of them. Here in the stomach section, there's 2 points of articulation at the waist and then at like the chest. So at the chest, that will bend forward to about there. It is going to look a little bit strange because it makes this gap there at the back. And then in the lower part, that does move forward a little bit, but you kind of have to be a little bit careful about that. It's basically more for bending back. So like the upper joint is good for bending forward, the lower joint is good for bending backwards. For the shoulder joint, you can kind of pull that out and to the front a little bit so you can get some forward movement out of that. The shoulder armor itself will just move freely. Vertically, you can only get the arm up to about 90 degrees here, so that's partially due to the shoulder armor getting in the way, but even if you didn't have that, I don't think you'd be able to get the arm up very much higher than that, unfortunately. Rotation there above where that black bar is, and then a double joint will give you a full nice bend there at the elbow. And the wrist is just on a ball joint. Down here at the legs, you'll be able to get the legs spread to about there, which is not that much. And then you can bring those forward to about there. You will have a seam line on this flesh tone part there, so a seam line right through the center of that. The other thing, just due to the shape of that, you can't really bring the leg forward and straight. It is going to be like a little bit off to the side there just because of the shape of the front of the pelvis there. And then again, we have some rotation there above that black bar and a nice double joint in the knee there for a good full knee bend. And then the ankle, that will move side to side a little bit, forward and back pretty well there, and then up underneath the feet. Nice full detail there, no hollow spaces or anything, so that's good. Alright, so there you go. As you can see, just the articulation and all the different weapon options, everything, all of that make this kit definitely, without question, a good and very fun kit to work with, for sure. It's definitely a breath of fresh air compared to the Fumina kits, which I personally never really had that much of a problem with, the different versions of those that we had. They were not that good, but really they weren't like garbage or by any means. This one is definitely, though, a lot better, and I do have to say that Bandai definitely did a better job with this than their previous attempts. That said, do I think there's still room for improvement? Of course, there's definitely still room for improvement. They could definitely work on the part separation and things like that, but that's just not really something that Bandai particularly does. on the level that Kotobukiya does. So like for the frame arms and Megami device kits, the frame arms girl and Megami device kits, just those have so many small little intricate parts in them, and Bandai definitely, by all means, of course, could do that, but for the market that they're going for, I just think that's probably not going to happen. So this is probably about the peak of what we're going to get from this type of kit from Bandai. Now, as for any real blatant negatives of the kit, really there's not a whole lot. I mean, it's not an HG anymore, but it's still kind of basically like an HG kit. It's got the same faults, basically. There's stickers for missing color apps, there's seam lines here and there, and you do have the general simplicity of an HG build, but it does have some really nice detail on there overall, and as we've seen, the articulation and weapons and all of that, I think all of the positives of this kit definitely outweigh the negatives. So what you're getting in here for the 2,400 yen list price, I think is definitely a pretty worthwhile buy, considering that this is the same list price as the other releases from the Fumina and the Chinagai and the Rinko kit as well. They've all been at 2,400 yen. So for this one being the best among them and at the same list price is definitely the best option for if you're wanting to pick up one of these kits. Alright, now at this point I just want to talk about some comparisons here between some different kits. So obviously we've got the Axis Angel version of the Fumina, and then a couple of Kotobukiya kits there, the Megami Device Soul Roadrunner, and the Frame Arms Girl Architect Off-White, which is actually going to be my next review, so stay tuned for that coming up next. But anyway, you can get a sense of the size of these. The Diver Nami is definitely closer in size to the Kotobukiya kits. But let's just talk about a few key points and compare. So first of all, the one main point that a lot of people are going to want to talk about is, of course, just the price. Now, both the Bandai kits are 2,400 yen, the Kotobukiya kits are 5,000 yen and 3,800 yen, respectively. So even the Frame Arms Girl Architect, which is kind of like the most basic of their line, is coming in at a full 1,300 yen more expensive, so about $13, $14 more expensive. Then let's talk about stickers and water slides. So the Bandai kits, of course, don't come with any water slides at all. The Megami Device kits do come with a lot of water slides. The Frame Arms Girls kits come with basically just water slides for the eyes. As for stickers, the Kotobukiya kits, which have fantastic color separation, have 0 stickers. It's all just complete color separation of the parts, or they have a couple parts which are pre-painted with a little bit of pre-painting on them, including the faces. As for the Bandai kits, of course, they have a lot more in the way of stickers. And then as I just mentioned, we should also talk about their face options. So the Fumina kits, all those didn't have any face option parts except for just one until we got to the build to the Diver Nami now, which does have 3 different face options parts. But for all the Kotobukiya kits, having 3 different option faces is the norm. And as I mentioned before, the face option parts for the Kotobukiya kits come pre-printed, and the pre-printing on those is really, really good. Then let's talk about included weapons and accessories. Now, as far as what's included with the kits, the Kotobukiya kits have a wide range. So for example, the Architect comes with very little in the way of accessories for that. The Megami Device kits does come with a lot more. For the Bandai kits, they all have a pretty standard amounts, a pretty good amount of weapons and accessories that are included with them, though I will give this one little point as well, as that for the Kotobukiya kits, those are compatible with a lot more stuff in terms of what Kotobukiya makes in terms of weapon options, and the Frame Arms Girls kits being compatible with, obviously, the Frame Arms Robot kits as well. So in terms of what's included in the box, it kind of depends on the kit, but I think the Frame Arms Girls kits have a lot of options available in terms of what Kotobukiya makes that are compatible with the kits. And the last point we'll compare is just the overall look and style and proportions of everything and the details. And I definitely have to give that to the Kotobukiya kits as well. And I think the Diver Nami here in this case is a big improvement. And it's, again, as I've said, it's the best of the bunch so far. But it still just doesn't compare to the look and the quality of the Kotobukiya kits. The detail on them is just really, really nice. And as I mentioned, the part separation, all of that just looks so good on them. And the proportions and everything. And they're just more nice in terms of the quality of their appearance. So just a couple last things that I will mention about this kit is that this kit does also have hard points on the side of the legs and the side of the shoulders where you could mount different accessories and things like that onto it. So definitely open for more customization here on this kit, which is nice. Another thing too is that you've seen that clear red included stand. You've seen that come and go over the course of the review, and that's because It's nice that that's included, but it is a little bit limited in terms of its articulation. So depending on the pose that I wanted to do, I was able to use that, or I had to just use the regular arm of the Action Base 5, which I'm using there at the bottom. So yeah, you might find that useful, or you might not, depending on what pose you want to do with that. And so that is going to be it for the review, guys. Overall, I think it's definitely Bandai's best kit along these lines so far, and I'm interested to see what they do in the future. Now, we do know we have the next one coming out in the next couple months, that being the Mobile Doll Sarah, but that's going to be back into the HG line, so I'm not sure how that's going to stack up, if that's going to end up being, back more like the Fumina kit, or if it's going to stay along the same quality as this one. We'll just have to see how that goes. So in the meantime, guys, hopefully this review was helpful and informative for you if you are looking for some more information about this, and just to kind of see how it compares and how it stacks up against some other options that are in similar. But of course, let me know any other further questions or comments you have down in the comment section below. Check out the link to USA Gundam Store, show them some love, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Have a good one. Bye-bye. Hey! Thanks for watching, guys. Remember, if you want to check the kit out for yourself, you can head over to USA Gundam Store. Use that coupon code ZakuAurelius10. Save yourself 10%. Thanks for watching, guys. See you next time. Bye-bye.